You know, I got my first glimpse at authenticity in 1994. I was 32, and I was working in Fairweather. Anybody remember Fairweather stores? Retail. So I was working in Pacific Centre, downtown Vancouver. I had a staff of 35, and I had a really great regional manager named Carol. Carol was brilliant. She was very assertive and direct, and she was an amazing merchandiser, and she was very good at what she did. And so I tried to be like Carol so that I would be effective in what I did. And I was not effective in what I did as a manager. And so I started thinking about, you know, how do I want to work with a team, and how do I want to support the members of the team to grow, and how do I want to create connection, and what strategies work for me. And when I did that, sorry, I'm in your way here. When I did that, then I started to see results, and I started to support people more effectively and see the growth in the store. And I'll never forget what my boss, Carol, used to say. She'd say, Tana, 1 week feather duster, and 1 week a peacock, and 1 week a feather duster. So never get too high on your horse about where you're at, right? So 1 week you can do really well, and the next week you're not going to do very well. So, so keep things in perspective. The second glimpse that I had was in 2007. And so two things happened in 2007. First was Bill George from Harvard Business Review came out with a book called True North, Discover Your Authentic Leadership. And so that gave me hope for the business world. The second thing that came out that gave me even more hope was Oprah Winfrey had a whole magazine in March of 2007 dedicated to authenticity. And so it finally gave me a language to articulate what it was that I was trying to do with my life and cultivate in my way of being. So those two things. So there are 4 things that I would like to share with you today about authenticity and this road trip from there to here. I'm a visual learner. I need to draw you pictures. I hope that's okay. And I'm sorry if you can't see over here. So if you would like to move around so that you can see, you're welcome to. So 4 things. The first is, what is it? What is authenticity? What does that mean? How do we think about that? The second is, when do I start in my life? When is it the right time? The third is how do I be authentic? It sounds so simple and can be one of the most difficult things to do in our lives at times. And then 4 is why? Why is it important for us to be authentic? Why is it important for us to be on this road trip from there to here? And so the first one, so what is authenticity? A simple way to think about authenticity is that I'm genuine. And the same in all parts of my life. So I don't know if you've ever walked into a room where you're volunteering, or where you're with family, or where you're going into a job and you think, I have to put the mask on or I'm not going to survive here, right? And so this is about taking off the mask where you feel safe in more and more situations. So taking off the mask. So genuine. And the second thing is that it's people who are authentic are role models for fair and moral behavior. We need more of these people. Today, particularly in the world, we need more people who are willing to stand up and be ethical and be role models in the world. So what is it? Genuine, it's fair and moral. And so I'll give you a tool for thinking about this. And the tool is a line, a horizontal line. And it comes from a video by the Conscious Leadership Group called Location, Location, Location. And each of you will get an action worksheet. I'm all about being able to have tactical ways of doing this. So you'll get an action worksheet there at the back. And it's got the name of the video on it to watch. So I want you to watch Location, Location, Location. It's affectionately called Above and Below the Line. And so when we're above the line, we are our best or authentic selves. We are curious, we are creative, We are open-minded, and we see life as play. When we are below the line, we blame others, we are judgmental, we are closed-minded, we are stressed. And guess where the mind defaults to? Below the line. It's the natural way that our minds are hardwired. I think it was in Buddha's Brain, a great book on the neuroscience of happiness, where they said we're using an old brain for a new world. So our brains they haven't caught up in our evolution, and we're still making too big of a deal from a neuroscience perspective for situations that occur that aren't, they're not hurting our physical safety, they're actually just hurting our identity or our ego. So our egos are getting in the way. So mind defaults below the line. So our authentic self, as Diana said, it's important to notice in every moment we have a choice, and we'll be moving above and below the line often throughout the day. And authentic leaders make a choice to be above the line and to have a positive impact or a positive ripple effect on other people. So the line above the line and below the line. The other thing, I'd like you to have just a bit of an experience of the feeling, the inner purpose feeling of what it's like to be our authentic selves. And so from a spiritual perspective, Eckhart Tolle's work, Michael A. Singer's work, the Enneagram, we are our authentic selves when we are our essential selves, or a spark of the divine. It's who we are as our soul. It's who we are as connected to the universe. It's who we are connected to God, or however you describe a higher power. So it is our birthright, and Eckhart Tolle describes the feeling as love and ease and lightness. And so this is our natural state. So when we're centered, when we're being authentic, we are experiencing love and ease and lightness. And so if you can just think of a moment, think of a person who you care about deeply, someone who's done something surprising to create connection with you, where you feel that sense of love. Or think of a beautiful sunset that brings you joy and wonder and that feeling. So you can think about it, or you can actually feel it in the body. So I want you to feel it in the body just for a moment. This is your natural birthright. When we get off center and we are feeling worry or judgment, that is off our center. And so all we have to do is notice it, relax, and come back to our centered and natural state of being. Eckhart Tolle talks about our inner purpose in life as evolving as individuals beyond thought to the awareness behind the thinking mind. He talks about our outer purpose as being, outer purpose or external purpose? Outer purpose as being the way our lives manifest as we evolve internally, as we become more conscious, more authentic. There is structure for, I'm going to go on to when, and that'll explain some of the things. Then I can get on to how. So when is the best time to start being authentic? Start when you're ready. Start now. Start when you're not ready. There are times in your lives, so again, I need to draw a picture here. So there are times in our lives when we get into a new relationship, a new job, a new volunteer position, and we're in the highs. We're so excited about it. This is going to be great. And then at some point we realize this is really not what I want to be doing. This is not a right fit for me. And so we get into the lows or the doldrums. And so what people do is they just move to the next. They go to the next relationship, they go to the next city. I used to call it pulling a geographical. I'll just move, because that'll fix my life, because it's not working out the way I wanted it to be. So there are chapter changes where we have a chance to reflect on our lives and to make decisions about how we want to go forward very intentionally. And so we may get 3 or 4 or 5, however many chapter changes we get, where something is just not working and we can't go forward the way that we were going. And so at this time, it's a great place to ask the big questions. Who am I when at my best? How do I want to be living my life? What is deeply important to me? And to make decisions that allow us to be aligned with who we are and what's deeply important to us. What's our purpose? What is our inner purpose feeling? And so asking these big questions about values and purpose will help you to see that there are possibilities out here for what the next step is that you could never have imagined, because you're recalibrating your inner GPS, your inner guidance system, to the possibilities for what could be happening. And so these are the kinds of, this kind of structure is, and asking these big questions is part of what is required or can be helpful when you're on this authentic road trip from there to here and evolving as a part of your lives. So I wrote 2 books on awakening and being authentic, and Diana's going to give this set away for today. So one is the foundational book that outlines the process, and the second is a journal. So this one's not available yet, so someone will get those. So I hope you enjoy them. Once you've read them, please call me and we'll have tea. I'm notorious for having tea. Okay, so that deals with the when. How? How do you do this? So there's 3 pillars for authenticity. There's many different models out there. There's a simple one by Fiona Beddoes-Jones out of the UK. And so she talks about 3 pillars. One is awareness, so self-awareness. Not very good at multitasking when I'm trying to talk. Okay, so the spelling might be incorrect. Self-management and ethics. And I'm going to add one more, that's community. Diana, you got to stop me when I get to my time. So, okay, so the self-awareness piece, I got to draw another picture, is the 4 A's. 4 A's of, it's a cyclical, ongoing practice of awareness and awakening in our lives. Inquiry, where we can learn things about ourselves and apply the learnings and then learn at a deeper level. So it either starts with an awakening, an aha moment. I can't believe how many times I go to my phone every day because that little red dot is there and it's calling to me. I got to check my email. I got to check my email. And I realize that I'm totally addicted to my technology. That's an awakening. So that awakening leads to an awareness. And I start noticing it all the time. I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm so uncomfortable until I check. I got to check it. I'm thinking it right now. I've got to check it. And so that awareness then leads to action. And with authenticity, action takes place 2 different ways. The first is internally, and in terms of being intentional about the way I'm thinking about things and the action I want to take. And then externally, in terms of the behavior, and being very thoughtful and intentional, coming off of autopilot and going on to manual, so that you override old automatic patterns that may not be helpful anymore. And I got to draw another picture in a second. But so then it leads to more awareness, which then leads to more awakening. So it's a cyclical process that you can use every day to become more aware. Be aware of when you're off center from feeling ease and joy and lightness, when you're feeling worry, and come back to center to those feelings. So, okay, I got to draw the arc. Diana said you got to draw the arc. Can everybody see this, or I'll draw it higher? Do you want it higher on the page? Okay. I got lots of paper here. Okay, so this is called the arc of intense energy, and it's what happens in the body when we go into our stress patterns. Emotional Intelligence 101. So we get triggered by something. So there's 2 axes. This is in seconds, and this is the level of discomfort. And this arc is what happens when we go into our stress pattern. So something happens, we get triggered by a situation or a person, and we start pumping adrenaline and cortisol through the body, and we get stressed in whatever way our pattern shows up. So it's either fight, it's flight, or freeze. There's 3 potential patterns. We may have all of them in different situations. And we get increasingly uncomfortable. And so this goes to the discomfort of having those important conversations. So we, as a society, as culture, as a world, we don't want to feel uncomfortable anymore. We're not used to being okay with discomfort. And so what we can learn to do is build the capacity to be aware of it and to notice it, to know that this too shall pass, and to be able to choose a different response. So when we're unaware and the body gets so uncomfortable, it will snap and you'll use an old automatic pattern to react to a situation. So you're unaware and you use this old pattern. Usually the patterns are developed in childhood and they're not always effective. This is the situation where you think, I really wish I would not have behaved that way. And it's already happened and it's too late for this time. So we can learn to develop a different, more intentional response when we're being authentic. And often it's overriding the ego or the identity to choose a different response. And so the simple thing that we can do in the moment to self-manage, we call it the ABCs. It's not the ABCs of accident prevention or safety. It's the ABCs of self-managing. So it's awareness, deepening your breathing, go back to yoga or mindfulness, calming the central nervous system just for a moment to keep your perspective, and making a different choice, or asking a question, being curious. And so that will distract the amygdala, or the part of the brain that is assessing risk, and will allow you to keep your perspective in the moment to have a more effective and compassionate and empathetic response. Sometimes it means, so being authentic doesn't mean being soft and fluffy. It can be that I need to override my old pattern of contracting when I feel intimidated by someone, and I need to override that old pattern to stand up metaphorically for myself in more situations. I need to override my terror and fears of coming up here to speak to you, because it's more important to me that an important message get delivered in the room this evening. So self-managing. Okay, we've done it, Diana. So those are 2 of the hows. The ethics piece is know your values. Take the time to articulate your values. If you don't have a way to do that, you can send me a note. I think my name is on the action worksheet, and I'll send you a values worksheet. I'm really good at creating action worksheets, so you can go to action about things. So I'll send you one, and you can work through your values. And those provide a guidepost for being very intentional, particularly in new and challenging situations where you're just not sure how to move forward with them, is check in with your values and what's important to you. And finally, community. So it's find someone, and it's really wonderful to come into this room and feel like I can be exactly who I am. I talk a lot about this in corporate environments, and so I don't talk about the spiritual side all the time. I have to, so to be able to come in here and just talk about what I know to be true is a really cool thing to be able to do. So community, so find someone that you feel like you can take the mask off with and practice being yourself with them. Because the more you practice with someone you feel safe with, the more you'll have capacity in situations where it's higher risk or you feel more stressed and you're not able to be yourself in those situations. Okay, and finally is why. So why is authenticity important? So authenticity is important for a couple of different reasons. The first is ease. Internal ease for yourself more of the time. As you recenter and come back to who you are, as you live your life aligned with who you are, versus trying to be like someone else, like I was doing with my great boss, Carol, at Fairweather. That's the first thing. 2 is you can support others. So as you grow and change, so you have this impact on others. And we have movements like this event and Diana's work around creating connection and supporting humanity to have that ripple effect and to support others to be authentic as well. So there's a great book by David Hawkins, PhD, called Power versus Force. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. Power being life-destroying, power being life-affirming, and force being life-destroying. And he talks about how one person doing their own work can offset many people who are not aware and who are in the negative and below the line. So as we do our own work and we heal from whatever we have dealt with in our lives, and we support others too, we raise the vibration level in the world and the collective consciousness. So the final reason is, this is my subversive reason, and this is what I'm all about, is my purpose is to support peace in the world through inner peace, one person at a time and one conversation at a time. The world needs some course corrections right now. Really, a lot of them. And each of us can have a ripple effect that we actually can't even imagine. And so together we can do our part to support peace. So thank you. That's really what I wanted to share.